So, and I say this my first-hand experience because in the old days, I need to meditate first, you know. And in the old days, I had to do very kind of dense, gross kind of meditation to settle my mind. I had to shake my body, I do anything, you know, just to release some stress and so on. And then I would go into more.
Espero que a próxima missão, espero que o nosso grande mestre
Oh, just a moment. Let me see if I can.
Mas, com toda sinceridade, eu estou à disposição. Como bom soldado, eu estou sempre à disposição. Seja o que for. E aí, Marcos, como é que você está?
I don't know how to him.
Ah, beleza.
José Solid. José.
Ah, que bom. Dá beijo delas, tá? Eu odeio.
Okay, I got it. I muted him now. Okay, so I was doing this. I was doing a more kind of dense sort of meditation, and then as my mind became subtler and more calm and more contemplative, I began doing some more subtle meditation. So I did Vipassana for many years. And then later on, I was doing even a subtler, more refined kind of meditation, you know. So as the mind gets more and more subtle, more and more pure, more and more refined, so you're gonna be able to tune into subtle and subtle forms of meditations and bring your mind to a very sattvic state very soon, very rapidly. Okay, but yet, as we come to Vedanta, we know that our goal is not a sattvic mind. So our goal is self-knowledge. And in order for self-knowledge to be gained and properly assimilated and retained, the mind needs to be sattvic. Therefore, the sattvic mind is an intermediary goal, right, stage. And we need it. So therefore, there's nothing wrong with you doing your meditations every time you feel that your mind is not fit for contemplation on the teachings of Vedanta. You understand? That's the way it goes. Okay? It does not help. It's not productive. Understood?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
So we have to experiment with our mind, our potential to understand, contemplate, and assimilate this knowledge and do what it takes, you know. And one of them is to work out one's karma. If one's karma is producing too much extroversion, one's lifestyle is producing too much stress, so one has to adjust one's karma, one's lifestyle. One has to resolve some old issues, some old karma, conflicts, and so on. You have to do things on every level. Well, anything that helps to establish a mind that is fit for self-inquiry. You know? So we do what it takes. But as you said at the beginning of this conversation, the mind, I mean, when we start working with Vedanta, we realize that, there is so much in the mind, you know, which is we call, it's based on self-ignorance. And there are so many thoughts, because the mind, it has all these thoughts that keep coming up, and they come from our vasanas, our causal body. It's not like deliberately produced by us. You know, we have no control. So all those thoughts, they come attached with feelings and emotions. And so we see that we are helpless because we cannot control which thoughts pops into our minds. You know? So we need to go about doing whatsoever it takes to produce a mind that is, you know, calm, and karma yoga, and working the karmas, meditations, and even asanas, or anything that relax the body mind, and knowing that everything that we do is a means to an end. It's not an end itself, as we often say. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody has a question regarding this or any other?
Hey, Arlindo.
Hey, Mark.
I've kind of realized I am the self. I know that I am not that body-mind complex. I realize that I'm the consciousness here. But now, going back to what you were just saying then, I also realize that now I have to go back and start purifying my mind, because there's still things arising in my mind. The sana's coming up, and I still feel sensations or whatever. So please give some advice with regards to getting to this stage and then having to purify the mind.
Yeah, I mean that's what we call nididhyasana. So
Yeah.
it's having this knowledge always available to us. Okay, and this involves karma and even meditation, as we said before. So we have no control over the thoughts and emotions, and we can always work from the standpoint of satya and mithya. Once you begin saying, like, I know 100% sure that I am consciousness and I am already free. So from this standpoint, you should not be much concerned about your mental conditions and the thoughts that come. Although, so everybody wants to enjoy a mind which is a positive mind. Okay, a joyful mind.
I'm not actually concerned about it, but sometimes, like James says, if you're not feeling 100% satisfaction all of the time, then you need to go back and repurify.
Yeah.
And this is what I feel like now. It's like, okay, I don't need now to be studying a scripture all the time. What I need to do is somehow work on the mind to clean up the residue vasanas or whatever in the mind.
Yeah. Right. And how you have been going about doing that?
Well, I thought, the usual suspects: bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and practicing, applying the knowledge.
Right. Yeah.
On a moment-to-moment basis, when the mind does erupt with negative thoughts or whatever, then to apply the knowledge. Right.
Yeah. Go back to the knowledge and run it through your mind, and then realizing the logic, understanding the logic, and stay with it, and having the clear understanding of what is satya, what's mithya, and within mithya, what is ishvara, what's jiva, and what is the field of action. So when we have knowledge from these two orders of reality, all is clear, we can deal with negative thoughts and emotions as they come up. It's not. And this is application of knowledge on a moment-to-moment basis. But sometimes we may need to do, even yoga or asanas or vipassana yoga or any kind of meditation, especially if we had a lifelong history of practice, like yourself, from what I understood. So why not that? But you do that knowing that you just do that as a hobby because you enjoy a clear, sattvic, contemplative mind. But you are not your mental condition. That's the most important point. But when she says you want to enjoy, a clean, clear, and sattvic mind as well, a joyful mind, a blissful mind. So you want that, but at the same time you don't want to be too much identified and concerned with that, because the most liberating knowledge is like, I'm not my mental condition.
Yeah.
This is something that we need to apply on a moment-to-moment basis. Very, very, very important all the time. I'm not my mental condition. Yet I appreciate such a contemplative, clear mind. Okay. So how we're going to translate this self-knowledge into moksha is to the degree that we do this work.
I understand that.
Purifying the mind to the extent that it becomes a joyful, blissful kind of mind, in spite of whatsoever karma comes our ways. So it's very interesting, this subject, because the goal of Vedanta is not to really purify the mind, although we tell that in order to assimilate this knowledge and retain this knowledge, we need a purified mind to a certain extent. So, and as we get this knowledge, as we gain this knowledge, so this process of purification of the mind, and especially when this knowledge is a full, whole knowledge, not only Jnana Yoga, but it's Karma Yoga plus Jnana Yoga. You have the Ishvara knowledge, you have the Satya knowledge, you understand I am the self, and then you understand that there is Ishvara and the Jiva playing on a sub-level of reality, So, and then you have the entire knowledge. Everything is playing, and you all the time say, I am not my mind, I'm none of this, but yet, this knowledge should free me in due time, from mental anxiety, emotional, violent reactions, and all this sort of thing. So that's what we call moksha, the fructification of self-knowledge is to come to that point where we can enjoy a blissful, peaceful, and joyful mind. But this should come more like a bonus, like a byproduct of self-knowledge. It should not be our main goal. It's just like it's a bonus of self-knowledge. So our goal is self-knowledge and to retain that knowledge,
Yeah, I understand that.
And then nature and gradually the mind becomes more pure and more joyful and more blissful.
Okay, just it's happening. I just would like to speed up the process sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you can do a bit of Karma Yoga. Is a very natural way to keep this mind clean and clear.
Yeah.
It's a natural purifier of the mind. You just leave it all to the results to Ishvara, you follow Dharma, so you don't get yourself caught in conflicting karmas over and over again. So you live a peaceful, friendly life with the environment and other people, and it's natural. You don't need to move away from your life, from your duties in society. You do what you do, but you do it with a certain spirit that turns your ordinary day-to-day actions of life into spiritual lives, and these actions now they are spiritual actions, so they are karma and they are yoga, this special spiritual religious attitude as well. So this is going to naturally purify and prepare the mind, so the mind is going to become more and more peaceful, joyful, and blissful. It's a natural way to purify the mind. Okay, so you can do samadhi yoga or yoga or meditation or vipassana yoga. It's also another way to go. Why? Because when we are really into meditation, we are not engaging any of those self-limiting vasanas that produce negative feelings and thoughts. So we are not feeding on them because I'm just meditating. Okay, I can, regardless of the object of meditation. If I meditation on Saguneshwara or Nirguneshwara, or if I meditate on any other, prana or mantra or my breath, So regardless of the object of meditation, if I meditate for several hours a day, so my vasanas, they are going to go to a certain extent into starvation, you understand? I'm not acting them out. I'm not acting them out. And not only that, I'm not acting them out, and I'm keeping a clear, sattvic, contemplative mind. So we are, and then I'm developing a new vasana, a new tendency, a tendency for a new appreciation, a new value for silence, peace, clarity of mind, and so on. So it does work, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So I got several people sending me message today that they cannot come because summertime is difficult. I'm glad that at least we have one, four, five, six of us. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, five. And I'm staying here in Surrealila in Spain. So I came to spend some time with Ramji. So it has been almost 2 years since last time I met him in person. So it's very nice to be here. So he's going to begin his class in soon. I'm going to join them later on once I'm done here. We are done here. Yeah.
Great.
Anybody else has a question, or we want to move into the? You have a question, Trudy?
Well, no, I don't. I mean,
Okay.
at the moment, sorry.
Okie dokie. Not a problem. Hola, Jose Solito. I muted you, so so just to let you know, I muted your mic, so because you were talking on the telephone, and then I muted it. So if you want to talk to us, you need to unmute it. Oh, you already did. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I feel very sorry about, okay,
No,
suddenly because I have it.
you don't
And
need.
yeah,
You don't need to be sorry.
I feel,
I just want to let you know that you are muted. Okay, let's get into our text. I think last time we covered the subtle body, or a good part of that. Is that so?
I think we started it, yeah.
Which we began the subtle body. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the idea is to, first of all, to define what is the subtle body. We know we have three bodies. So we have the subtle, our mental, emotional, intellectual body, which is not physically visible to the sense. But we know it exists because we can experience our mind and our intellect firsthand. We know, our emotions, we know our mind, we know the condition of our intellect. So we know that the subtle body exists. We have no doubt about the physical body, the gross body, the food body. We know that we see it aging year year and so on. So, and the causal body is very subtle. We don't really see it, but we can infer its existence, by its effects, because it causes the mind and the physical body. But we'll talk about the causal body later on. We spoke before about the gross body, that it's born out of good karma, meaning to say that karmas of previous lives, as the scriptures say, have given us the opportunity to be born as a human being with intelligent causal body, subtle, and the ability to learn, to grow, to discern, discriminate, and having knowledge, and so on. So it's a privilege to have such a human birth. So therefore, it's said that the physical body, it's inert, it's made out of food and so on, combination of the elements, and it's born to our good actions in the past. The subtle body also is born out of our good karmas in the past. Our human mind with our discriminating faculty and so on, with our human vasanas, and our free will is the result of good karmas in the past. We could have done very bad past life and be born again as an insect or a plant or a tree. No, we are born with the mind, the physical body, and the mind. So it's the result of good karmas in previous life, and it's even more clearly a result of good karmas when we take into account the fact that we are born and we got in contact with the scriptural knowledge called Vedanta. No? So it's a clear indication of our good karma. Okay. So what is the subtle body? The subtle body is composed of 5 sense organs of perceptions. Okay, we have the. Let me see here. I'm sharing. Am I sharing the chart? No, no. Let me share it. Okay, can you see it now? Yeah. So
Yeah.
subtle body is in the middle here. No? Our sense of identity as an individual happens here. We know that the jiva is the consciousness. You see the Om here, the symbol of consciousness, of awareness. We are a reflection of consciousness on this subtle body. It's the jiva, reflect consciousness, reflect awareness. So here, this subtle body is composed by several different functions. Okay, so the subtle body is composed by, first of all, the 5 organs of perception. Okay, so the perceptive organs are the organs that allows us to interact with the environment and gain knowledge, experience. Okay, learn something from the field of action. Okay, we again and again through these sense organs we gain knowledge, experience. Okay, and then we have with the possibility of grow in our learn, in our development and so on. So it's composed by the 5 organs of sense organs, of perceptive organs, which is different from the 5 physical instruments of experience. So sense, the 5 physical, they are the physical nose, ear, okay, the eyes, the tongue, and the skin. So the physical apparatus, the physical instrument of perception, they belong to the physical body. We have covered the physical body before. Okay? Now, besides the 5 physical instruments of experience, we have the 5 subtle organs of experience. These organs of experience, the perception, they belong to the mind. Okay, so how do we know that they belong to the mind? Because in a lot of cases, we have some people with a perfect leg, a perfect ear, a perfect eye, but something in the mind happens in the person, although there is no defect physically speaking, but the person is unable to see, hear, smell, taste, and so on. Okay, because there is a defect in the subtle body. In the subtle body, the instrument, the organs of actions, they are not properly working. We have some other examples as well. Many times we may be in a situation that we hear or we see something, but our mind is preoccupied with some news that we received or some other thing got our attention, and and we don't really perceive. One common example is like we may drive a car for 5 minutes without paying any attention to the road or to whatsoever is going on in the highway, because we are totally taken by some other object of perception, which is a mental one. Okay, so the physical eyes may be looking into the road, but the instrument, the organ of perception, the eye inside of the mind is occupied with something else. Therefore, we are driving automatic. We are not really present to that experience of driving. Okay, a lot of the times we do things and we can see that the mind is not there backing up those physical instruments of perception. So we need the mind to back up those physical instruments of perception in a way that we can really hear and see and taste and so on. So the subtle body is composed by these 5 organs of perception. is composed by the mind. So what does the mind? The mind integrates the 5 perceptive organs, okay? Integrates them in one single experience. So it integrates those perceptions. It emotes. What it means emotes? It gives it some energy so that it can be passed over to the intellect and the mind so that these other functions of the subtle body can respond appropriately and timely, hopefully. No? We receive the the income, the input, the stimuli from the field, and then it integrates. Before it emotes, actually, it questions, it doubts that contact with the field. We have this contact, and then we doubt, we question, we vacillate a little bit, what to make out of this, and so on. So the subtle body is made out of the mind, which is the feeler, the one that feels the contact. It's made out of the 5 sense organs. The mind, which feels, it questions, it doubts, it emotes. It's made out of the intellect, who is going to determine, decide, and come up with a response that is going to be brought into the field through the 5 organs of actions. So now, what's the subtle bodies? The 5 organs of perception, the mind, the intellect, the ego, the memory system that here is not showing as another function. We have the memory system as well. And then we have the 5 organs of action. So we have the 5 perceptive organs, the 5 organs of action. We have the mind, we have the intellect, we have the ego, and we have our memory. So all of this belongs to the subtle body. And if that is not enough, the 5 pranas, the 5 physiological systems also belong to the mind, belong to the subtle body. The subtle body is really something very rich and very, very complex. It has all the physiological pranas, it has the organs of perception, the organs of actions, and then those internal functions, the mental, the intellect, and the ego. So that says something about the subtle body. Let me see something else we can say here. The organs of perception. So the organs of perception, the 5 organs of perception are the ear, the skin, and so on, as I told you, the air, the eyes. And each organ of perception corresponds to its physical counterpart in the gross body. So as I told you, in the body we have the instruments of perception, and in the mind we have the organs of perception. They are interconnected, So they are connected with one another. One belongs to the physical body, and the other belongs to the subtle body. We can infer the existence of the organs of hearing, for example, because someone may have a physical ear, but this someone may be still unable to hear. The same is true for the organs of the eye, sight, and all the others. The presence of sense organs is an indication of the presence of the subtle body, and the presence of the subtle body is the proof of the self. The subtle body is going to prove the self. Why we say that the subtle body proves the self? Because it's due to the self alone that the subtle body shines with the ability to perceive and know, with sentience. Sentience is all, this conscious sentience is all lend the subtle body to the mind, to the jiva, from consciousness alone. As we know, consciousness alone shines with sentience, self-conscious, self-luminous, and then it transfers consciousness to the subtle body. We infer that the subtle body is caused by another factor principle, which is the causal body. But right now we are saying that we can infer the presence of consciousness itself, this conscious subject witnessing principle, because it shines in the mind. So we, by the effects, which is this here, conscious, luminous mind with the ability to perceive and know, we infer that there is something such as consciousness itself. Of course, one can always decide and say, no, no, to me, the mind is self-conscious. The mind is the source of consciousness itself. This can be easily disproved, this argument by the teachings of Vedanta, and we'll go through all of these teachings. The present subtle body, the present. Why are the organs of perception not the self? So we have these organs of perception. Why? Because perception is an unconscious object known to you, right? So this is a simple logic. Why we know that sensual perception is not really the self? Because it can be objectified. Okay? So all this perceptive experience we have through our perceptive organs appears in the mind, and we know that they are seen by another principle, and this principle is this subject conscious witnessing principle called consciousness or awareness. So we know that these perceptions can be objectified. We know the perceptions, but the perceptions do not know the knower. Okay? So therefore, we know that they cannot be self-conscious. Perception itself is an unconscious phenomenon. Okay? It's a mechanism. It happens due to these powers created by Maya, Ishvara, and they are all known to this subject principle alone called non-dual consciousness. And the perceptions, the perceptive sense organs, they can never really experience consciousness. Remember, we always say, the descriptions always say that the self is not an object of perception. The self is not an object of knowledge. So there is no way we can turn our perceptive organs, the mind, and our ability to see, hear. So we cannot turn our inner instruments of perception and try to see the true seer behind the mind and the instruments of perception. It's impossible. Why? Because the self, the true, the mental, free, conscious principle is the ultimate subject that cannot be reduced to an object of perception. So perception is just an object appearing to this consciousness we are. Perception will never be able to know us. So also perception is always change. Yeah? We know what is the definition of reality is that which is always present and that which never changes. So how can the perceptions, or perceptive organs be the self if it's constantly changing? It changes all the time. It is redirected to different objects of perceptions, and they keep producing new sensual experience to us. So it changes all the time. Therefore, it cannot be the self by definition. One moment the mind is operated through the eyes and and it sees something. The other moment it goes through the ear and then it's taken. The mind is taking, its organs of perception. It goes into some sound. Then the mind follows the sound. The other moment the mind is going to go and follow a nice aroma, a nice smell of whatsoever food, coffee that comes into our field of perception. So the mind, these perceptions, they are changing all the time. Therefore, they cannot be the self. With old age, it comes a time that the mind of the eyes do not see very well. That's another proof of impermanence. Is something that's not always present. We know that with time, not only the sense instrument, the vision, is going to lose its ability to see, but also the mind is going to also follow that. So the mind becomes tamasdic and tired and loses its sharpness. So everything is changing, everything is going down, going south as we go older. So in order to say that perception is changing, you, the unchanging self, has to be present all the time to reveal it. So think about that. In order for us to say that perception is a changing phenomenon from one moment to another, there must be a permanent, unchanging, always ever present background, that can capture the change. So the self is that which is unchanged, in which all these change perceptive phenomena take place. Perceptions change, but the self does not change. That's the point here. So we cannot be the perceptive organ. So the whole purpose of these teachings is to understand the three bodies, to understand all those functions of these bodies, and discriminate whatsoever we experience we have through these different aspects of the three bodies. All experience we have through the physical, the subtle, and the causal body, all these experiences are going to be proven to be what we call the not self. And the self is that in which all of these experiences take place. So the whole process here is to follow the logic and again understand that I am none of these levels of human experience. So those experiences are happening to me, and therefore I am the only unchanging factor, okay? Always ever present. So that's the purpose of all this logic that we'll be following here. So if we could subtract, for example, the self, we are having these perceptions towards the mind. Sense perceptions occur, we're experiencing all kinds of different objects of experience. If we could subtract the consciousness itself or awareness, so if we could subtract consciousness, so would we have any sensual experience? No. We know that it's not possible. If we don't have consciousness, so this sensual perceptive experience are not available to us. So, but we can keep our consciousness, our existence, and then we subtract, we just remove the sense organs and the sense instruments and the mind and so on. We remove everything one by one. And it does not affect our conscious existence. Consciousness remains unaffected, even in the absence of the instruments of perception, the organs of perception, the mind, and so on. We know that we can easily do well without any experience, and the proof of that is our deep sleep state. We love the state of sleep. When we go to sleep, we always have, I'm going to sleep. There is something that I love here about dreamless sleep. So we never love something unless it gives us great joy. And we only want to go there because we know that there will be an experience, a very subtle experience of great joy. And in that state of sleep, my sense instrument, my sense, or the body, physical body disappears, the mind with organs of perception disappear, everything disappears, and I have my greatest joy. I mean, there's nothing happening, nothing going on. It's only my conscious existence. Okay, did you guys get that? Satsang with the dogs here?
Yeah, right. Show us the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, the dogs are shining their conscious existence. Furthermore, the objects of perception depend on the self-consciousness, you, right, to exist. An object cannot be said to exist without being revealed by this light of consciousness, this conscious principle we are. Consciousness. Consciousness in association with the sense organs, the mind, the instruments of perception, and so on, it makes it possible for us to experience the subtle world of objects and the physical dense world of objects as well. So, as we said, if we withdraw all perceptions by shutting our instruments of perception and, and our inner organs of perception, which capture the impressions of previous perceptions, you follow that? So, our inner world, mental, emotional world, it's nothing but the impressions left behind of our previous perceptions of the physical material world. So if we shut from all these perceptions, the inner world and the outer world, we still remain as the subject conscious principle experience. I mean, at the most we can say, yes, I am consciousness, I am existence, and I am having a deeply beautiful experience. I'm having a kind of blankness of samadhi state or whatever. So consciousness can never be negated, can never be taken away, because anything requires this conscious principle, existence principle, which is always there before, during, and after any sense organ perceptive object of experience. So in deep sleep, we definitely exist prior to, during, and after all perception. For all of these reasons, we can affirm, I mean, the Upanishads affirms with certainty that we are not any of these sense organs. We are not any of these perceptions that we gain through the sense instruments and the sense organs, okay? Any questions regarding the organs of perception, the distinction between the organs of perceptions and the physical instruments of perception, and the fact that consciousness, that which is always ever present, never change, is free from what's going on, is free from any perception, and everything depends on this consciousness. All perceptive experience depends on the consciousness principle.
So, if I may, basically, usually you're using this model of the deep sleep to illustrate that consciousness always exists.
Yeah.
The other key statement in Advaita Vedanta seems to be that that basically the mithya is unreal. It's not real, where reality is just consciousness, or that which never changes. So in our day, as Mark talks about, in our day-to-day lives, we have to deal with this apparent reality that arises in consciousness. And is it a dharmic to just kind of dismiss what arises as total illusion or just a dream? I mean, to me, this seems like a possibility to fall into, I mean, it seems that, understanding Advaita Vedanta, we can understand we're consciousness, but we still have to deal with the apparent reality that's arising around us.
Yeah.
In a dharmic way. But to just dismiss it as a dream, because for me, this truth that consciousness is real and unchanging, and the the apparent reality is changing. Everything, the thoughts, the emotions, everything, the waking, the dreaming, sleep, it's always changing. Is it just when we abide in consciousness, can we just really totally always dismiss the apparent reality as kind of a dream? Because Lori, I don't get involved with my dreams. I know a lot of people are very deeply involved with dream interpretation and
Right.
you know, and kind of deeply motivated by it in various ways. To me, it's just, you basically, well, it might be curious, but basically something to dismiss. So can we say this dismissive attitude toward the apparent reality is well, I realize everything's by Ishvara, but it's, I guess, or will that make us fall into a dharmic behavior, which is really a problem, I think. As you say, a lot of people think, well, if I'm just consciousness, I can just do anything, and do a lot of adharmic behavior. Do you want to comment a bit on that?
I hear you, and it's not the first time you bring up this subject. But I'm trying to reopen the here so that I can see you guys. Let me give me a moment here. Let me see if I can see you again. No. Okay, I guess I'm gonna be here not seeing anybody, which is not much fun.
We're all here. We see you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's when we talk about Satya and Mithya, and the fact that Mithya is just what we call an apparent order of reality, which is not really absolutely real, but only apparently real. We mean to say that it exists, okay, but it's constantly changing, and it's not always present. Sometimes it goes out of existence because it shrinks back or unfolds back into into seed or potential form, like the macrocosmic universe, the causal macrocosmic universe. It just shrinks. It's the night of Brahman, as they say. So it can appear and can disappear. It appears and disappears every day as we go to deep sleep. When we go to deep sleep, the world disappears to us, still we remain. Okay, so it is experience, but it's present and is continuously changing. So things that are constantly change from a moment to another, cannot be said to be real, absolutely real, although they exist. There are many examples that points to this fact. For example, the most classic one is a mirage. A mirage is a phenomenon that we can experience, and it does, therefore, it does exist, but it's not real, and that is something that we know that's not real, but it may deceive us. Okay, so another simple example is like we have gold, and we have numberless forms of gold, or how you say, uh, ornaments, and several ornaments made out of gold. So when we see a gold ring, so what we see when we see a gold ring? We see the ring and say, ooh, a ring, a gold ring. I found a gold ring here, okay? So, but when we see the ring, do we not see the gold? Or if we see the gold, we don't see the ring, okay? Can the existence of the ring cancel the existence of the gold? No. Can the knowledge and understanding of the substantial, true fundamental nature of the ring as gold and gold alone, can that knowledge destroy the ring? No. Yes and no. Okay. Yes, because then I'm not really completely deceived by names, colors, and forms, because I understood the substantial fundamental essence of all those gold ornaments. Okay, but that does not makes the ring, disappear, and all other ornaments they remain. But you can see through, you see it into its fundamental, substantial, essential nature or reality. It's all gold. So we have so many different examples with everything you can make out of clay, everything we can make out of wood, everything we can do like with the metaphor of the ocean, the water, ocean, and the waves. So we have all this metaphor to indicate the play between these two orders of reality. One is superimposition of names, forms, and colors. Okay, and it's a superimposition on something that is substantially more essential. It's the nature of something. What is the nature of something? The nature of something is that without which that thing cannot be that thing. So can we can we have a gold ring without gold? No. If you remove the gold from the gold ring, poof, disappears. But can we remove the ring from the gold ring? Yes, we can melt the gold. We remove the shape called ring, but the gold, the substance, the essential, the nature of that object remains intact. So reality is that which is the essential nature without which nothing in the universe is really existing. Okay, so it's this fundamental nature, such as gold, it lends existence to all gold ornaments. The same way, this conscious subject principle lends, okay, existence to all objects. So are these all these objects real or irreal? Unreal. So they exist, but they are not really real. Can we really say, okay, goodbye, you are not real, so I'm not going to live in this world anymore, and I understood it's all consciousness, it's all God, and so on, and I'm not going to be interact with the world. I go to a cave. I'm gonna go away with the Google. Everywhere we go, we're gonna find the universe, the world. Okay, we're gonna find a nice cave, and we're gonna have a lot of cave experience. We're gonna live in this world with only a cave or an ashram. So we cannot escape this order of reality called mithya. Although we understand the essential nature of mithya, mithya does not poof. So now the key for living a life of freedom and enjoy this ability to live a blissful, joyful, peaceful, loving interaction with other beings and so on, is to know your fundamental nature, but also know how you're going to behave as your secondary nature as a jiva, because the world does not go anywhere. So people who use this teachings of Jnana Yoga as a means to justify their actions or irresponsibilities in regards to the roles they should be playing in the world, which they don't. Okay, they are self-deluded, because these orders of reality do not have any conflict. They don't obstruct. They don't cancel one another. We need to have this complete knowledge. That's why we were saying at the beginning today, we need the complete, full knowledge of Satya and Mithya. So the knowledge, when it's complete, and then you know that this reality is here. It's an apparent reality, but as embodied self-conscious being, embodied self-conscious mind, alive mind, as an embodied alive mind, and a mind with self-knowledge. Yet I have to play according to the rules of Mithya. I'm subject to all laws and rules of Mithya. There's no way. No, I am embodied. Okay, live mind, and even with self-knowledge, I'm subject to all the laws, and therefore, if I want to really have this knowledge working for me, it has to be complete. Self-knowledge has to be the knowledge of I am the self, Satya, and the Mithya, the Ishvara. I understand the field, all this apparent order reality. We understand and we start harmonizing our life with with the rest of the manifest, with all other beings, with Ishwara and so on, and then we can have a nice psychological experience of the world and so on, and going through our karma with a nice attitude of gratitude and so on. You see, these two orders of reality, they don't oppose one another. They the same way the gold is not in opposition with the ring, and vice versa. They coexist, okay, because they belong to two orders of reality. I don't know if this answers your question, Trudy.
Well, the one thing about that analogy of the ring and the gold is that you're still left with the gold, which is still in the Mayan world.
No, no, no. I mean, every analogy is never going to take you all the way to the self. Okay, so gold represents the self, the most fundamental, essential nature of everything, and all the forms. It's a symbol. It's a representation of all the objects in creation. Okay, and gold is a symbol for the self. Of course, the gold is just the five elements. It's media. Okay, it's just an analogy. It's not a literal thing. It's analogy. It's just to understand the dynamics between two orders of reality. One is the most fundamental, and the other is a more apparent, a more superficial aspect. Okay. Of course, the gold is a combination of the five elements. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't manage to see you guys again. Your screen sharing is paused. Am I still sharing something? No, no?
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
can see the chart.
sharing the chart? Okay. Okay. How strange. Okay, so shall we get on with the...
It's 8 hours.
I'm not in my home today, so I'm a little bit more limited here. There I do with two laptops. Okay, so we said that the subtle body is composed by the five organs of perception and then the five organs of action. So now let's look at the five organs of actions. They are the speech, the hands, the legs, the excretion, and the procreation, which are located in the subtle body. Okay, is our ability to speech. Okay, to speak. Our hands, the legs, the organs of excretion, the organs of excretion and procreation, and they are all located in the subtle body. They pervades and lives and animate their physical counterparts in the gross body. So we have those gross instruments of actions and we have the subtle instruments of action. Okay, they are counterparts. One belongs to the physical gross body and the others to the subtle body. Okay? The organ of speech enables the vocal cords to speak. Okay? So the organ in the mind allows our vocal cords to speak. Okay? The organ of hands enables the functions of the physical hands and arms. So the mind is going to allow the arms and the hands to do its work. The organ of legs, our organ of action in the mind, is going to allow the physical movements of the mind, of the legs, etc. So the organs of expression allows the anus to expel waste. So we have the anus that naturally expels waste, but we have it in the mind that's going to animate, is going to infuse, is going to allow through its energy, its pranas, and allow those expel of the waste. The organs of procreation enlivens and energize the genitals. So we have the organs of procreation as well. They are enlivened and energized by the genitals that get the energy from the mind. So again, we infer the presence of the organs of actions because someone can for example, have a vocal cord but be unable to speak. Someone may have legs and in perfect physical condition, but be unable to move them, and so on and so forth. So that's the logic here. The organs are located, like the organs of perception, the organs of action are located in the mind, in the subtle body. They are inert matter, but they are subtle matter. Everything in the subtle body is a composition of subtle matter. Okay? They are inert subtle matter. They are not self-conscious. They are made conscious by consciousness alone. They are unconscious inert matter in the form of energy. So they cannot be consciousness itself. They are inert. They cannot be the self-conscious, self-luminous, the seer of every action, the seer of every actions and organs of actions. Okay, we can see, we can perceive, we know the organs of action. We know when they start getting activate. We know when they get stimulated. And so we know when we start feeling like we need to go to the bathroom, or we have a sexual kind of high or whatever. We know those subtle and energy levels of actions building and so on. So they cannot be the conscious subject principle because they can be seen, they can be easily objectified and known by something which is deeper and more fundamental than the mind itself. Okay, we remember the mind is what coordinates the five sense perceptive organs and the five uh, organs of actions as well. So the mind coordinates all of that. So they also decay with time, and they stop working properly with time. They even disappear in deep sleep. So the same logic in deep sleep, they disappear. So they cannot be you, the unchanging, ever-present self. So the bottom line is the sense organs of perception and the organs of action. The organs of perception, the organs of action, they are objects known to consciousness, objects known to us. So they can never be the seer, the knower, the experiencer, okay? Because they are seen, known, and experienced by this conscious principle known as you, I, consciousness. They even disappear in deep sleep, so they cannot be the I, the unchanging, ever-present I, the self. The organs of action depend upon prana. So all these organs of action, they are infused, with rajas, with energy, pranas. They depend upon prana or energy to exist. In turn, energy depends on Maya Ishvara. So we have pranas that somehow feeds rajas into these organs of action. The organs of actions are extremely rajasic. They need raja. They need this energy to go and bring into the field a response, and do something with the perceptive or impressions from the field, from our perceptive instruments and the perceptive organs. We have to respond, and we need prana, so they require all this energy. Depend upon prana energy to exist. In turn, energy depends on Maya Shvara, which is in turn depends on the self, you, in order to be said to exist. For these reasons, you, the self, cannot be the organs of action. Self cannot be anything of that. And we go through this logic because we so easily we get identified with our experience. We get so easily identified with our perceptions and with our actions. I have a rush for something, and then we say, I do, I feel, I perceive, I see. So the sense organs, the sense instrument, they see experience. Okay, they get cold, they get hot, and so on. All these levels of human experience, they belong to the physical body, the subtle body, the instruments of perception, the instruments of actions, and there is this conscious subject principle, the I, which is free and absolutely independently free from everything. So this is the self. Very, very common. Now we get identified with those levels of experience and we say I this, I that, and so on. So that's the idea. So the inner instruments, we looked into the 5 organs of perception, the 5 organs of action, and then the inner instrument. The inner instruments are just the mind, and then the intellect, the memory system, and the ego. So the inner instruments are these 4 functions of the mind, of the body. The mind is going to receive the informations coming from each one of these individual sense organs. We're going to perceive, and the mind is going to combine again, integrate all these perceptions into one single unified experience. So the mind is also the seat of emotion. The mind, it feels and it emotes. It feels the contact with the object, molds the other inner instruments to provide the response. It contacts the field, and then it molds the inner instruments. So what it means, so the feeler is going to doubt, is going to determine, is going to decide, and later on it's going to respond as the ego, the doer of the action. So it's going to emote, it's going to bring about the energy required for a response. And of course, we trust that our response is going to be appropriate. It's going to be in harmony with the field, with other beings, and so on. And it's going to be also a timely response, proper time. Mind also doubts, as we have mentioned before. Every contact is going to question, it's going to doubt. The vacillation between 2 thoughts or ideas is also another function of the mind. The mind is that trying to figure out something and vacillating between 2 notions, 2 concepts. And this is all part of the mind. The mind is more volatile. So the intellect is much more stable, it's much more determining, discriminating. It's our supreme judge, the one who says, okay, we go this way. Once it made up its mind, it just says that's what we go for. So that aspect of the body that cannot make a decision, it's a function of the mind, this feeler, doubter aspects of our subtle body. Once it comes into the field, it becomes just a discriminating, determining aspect of the subtle body, which does not vacillate. It just make a decision and that's it. And then the ego goes and is going to bring that response into the field. So this discrimination, 2 thoughts or ideas, analyzing them and making a determination and make a decision, discerning, determining, deciding, and so on, is the function of the intellect. It is called the intellect. Okay? The ego are the notions in the intellect. In some of our scriptures, like Vivek Chodamani, it presents the ego and the intellect as one single. So here we break it in 2 functions. Okay, so the ego are the notion in the intellect, such as I am adequate, I am inadequate, for example. So if I'm good, I am bad. So this is the ego, the ideas it has of itself, It somehow collects all these ideas from the field. The feedback from the field allows us to build this self-image of ourselves, what we believe we are, in this dualistic field, opposites, pair of opposites. I'm good, I'm bad. So the idea, I am the doer, I'm the originator of my thoughts, I'm the doer of my actions. All these ideas, they belong to the ego. Is that aspect of our subtle body owns our thoughts, emotions, owns our karma, owns the results of our karmas, and so on. I feel like I have control over the results of my actions. I am the doer, the controller over my destiny. So I can make it happen. I am the guy. And so all these ideas, gosh, or you can say, oh, I'm great, but I am all small and I am insufficient, I'm inadequate, and so on. Either way, I'm the enjoyer of the results of my actions. All of this is what we call the ego. It's also the notion of ownership, such as this is my mind. Yeah, the ego is that says I and mine. No, this is my mind. This is my body. Mine, mine, mine. So we identify with all these different levels, of instruments, vehicles of experience. We identify so my mind, my ego, my emotions, my this, my karma. So we have no problem to own our experience, to own our instruments of experience, the same way that we feel like I own my house. It's easy for us to say, this is my house. Oh, it's my house. I'm totally identified. This is my house. So the same way we identify notions in our mind. Okay? And such as the house comes one day it goes. So if we are too much attached to the house, it may burn, with fire. It may be flooded with water. It may be, it may go down into earth by earthquake, and so on. All of these are impermanent. So our mind and our thoughts, our notions, our feelings, and so on, they are all changing as well. They come and they go. So the moment that we say, this is mine, I and mine, we are under the spell of the ego and this notion that everything here on my level of experience is personal issue. It's a personal experience. The ego is that which takes everything personal. In general, it's any notion one has about oneself. That's the ego. The I thought associated with any attribute is the ego. So the I thought, once they say I am good, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, I'm tall, any attribute, any quality is the I thought in association with an attribute is considered to be the ego. The I am is a fair and clean statement. The moment that you say I am so and so, and then we are under the spell of Maya. Okay? And Maya tricks us all the time, that all the time we keep saying this, I am this, I am that, I'm high, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm congested, I am loose or whatever, anything we identify, we say I and mine. This is the ego under the spell of ignorance, of course. In every situation, the location of the inner instruments is generically referred to as mind. The mind is thoughts. It's thought to be the source of consciousness, self-consciousness. So is this a proper statement? In every situation, the collection of the inner instruments is generically referred to as the mind. So it is to say that everything, all the functions in the inner instrument, in the subtle body, a lot of the time we refer as mind. Sometimes we refer to the mind only one of the functions of the subtle body. Sometimes we refer to the whole subtle body as the mind. Okay, so it's important we understand the context so we don't get confused. So generally, and then the next statement here is, in the mind is thought to be the source of consciousness. So a lot of the time we believe that the mind, the sense of independent existence, and it's I and mine and so on, this I made out of attributes and qualities and properties and so on. So this I thought with attributes is thought, is imagined to be self-conscious. It's imagined to be the very, very source of consciousness itself. But this is not true. Okay, as we have mentioned and we have even said at the beginning of our class today, this mind is not self-conscious. So it borrows consciousness, it shines with consciousness, okay? Its consciousness, its self-lending, its conscious existence to the subtle body. So reflecting, shining the subtle body to produce the phenomenon we call jiva, or the mind. Mind is the reflection, the mind, the jiva is the reflection of pure, limitless consciousness on the subtle body. So from the standpoint of consciousness, the self, the inner instrument, and the inner instruments and their functions are known. They are all objectifiable, they are all objects, and they are therefore inert or unconscious, because there is only one conscious principle, and it can know and experience the mental condition on every moment to moment situation. We can experience the thoughts coming up and down, fluctuating, staying and going, modifying themselves. All of this can be seen and experienced. So none of this is self-conscious. The mind is not self-conscious. Okay, it's made conscious and it's seen, experienced, and known by consciousness alone. Okay, everything is made and constructed out of consciousness, and it's known and revealed and known by consciousness alone. It's important to remember this when doing self-inquiry. Not talking again about self-inquiry. We need to remember this. The inner instruments are simply a collection of thoughts, from subtle to the densest thoughts. So which are these thoughts that deceive us again and again and make us feel as, I am my experience. So the thought is, for example, I feel, I see, I perceive, I decide, I own. Okay? Perceptions of objects, feelings, doubts, determinations, ideas of ownership and doership, notions about yourself, and memories. All of this gives us an identification, and we get our I, limitless conscious existence I, and we somehow encapsulate it on those sense experience, and we believe those sensual experience are what we are: the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the perceptive objects, and every level of experience. These thoughts don't constitute consciousness because they are illumined and revealed by consciousness. This means that the inner instruments depend on consciousness for their seeming existence, and they cannot be consciousness itself. Okay? They are seen in consciousness. They belong to this sub-order or the secondary order of reality, of the one non-dual reality. Okay? They can be experienced and known in consciousness by consciousness. And since the inner instruments are subject to change, they cannot be you. They are changing self. Finally, the inner instruments are not always present. I don't know. Yeah. Always present, such as in deep sleep or samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi. So they cannot be the self, the ever-present, free self. Recollection of this experience is called memory. This is the other center, the other aspect of the subtle body. Memory, a conscious level in impression. So it's very interesting to look into what memory is. We have these impressions with the field, and these impressions, they leave footprints, they leave some subtle prints in the subtle body. So this residual, of this experience, this fragrance from previous experience, usually are the experience that I like very much or that I don't like. Those extreme experience of pleasure and pain, they leave stronger footprints or impressions or fragrance in the mind. Okay, so these memories, these subtle memories left in the mind, they come from our experience. Recollection of previous experience is called memory. Memory are conscious level impressions. They are in the conscious mind. They remains there in the mind. Okay, and we can recollect them again and again when we need to to determine something, to understand any one of our contacts with the field of action. We want to make a decision, make a determination. We just bring in some similar situation, some similar experience, and then we can work things, based on what we have already in our files, our memories, our past impressions from similar experience. So we have our files, and then we say, okay, have been there, have done this. So how I'm going to go about? So no, I'm not going to follow this course of action because I did not got good result and so on. So I'm going to try something else. So all of that comes from this memory center. Okay. So in the subtle body, they are the footprints of the fragrance left behind. They are the flower is no longer there, but its fragrance can be experienced as memory. So it's interesting that sometimes when we have a very nice experience, and this experience may have given us so much pleasure, so much peace, so much love and satisfaction. Sometimes I know people that they just go into their files and they pull those memories, those impressions, and then they start living it again, reliving it, and just enjoy, remembering that beautiful experience they have. They just want to squeeze some more joy and juice from the experience only by recollection of the memory. Recollection of period. The flower is no longer there, but the fragrance can still be experienced again. So we go there and we enjoy it again. Every experience is filed in our memory according to 3 categories: pleasant experience, unpleasant, and indifferent. Experience classified as indifferent are the one conducive to dispassion. So one of the qualities of mind we want to develop by the of self-inquiry and karma yoga and upasana yoga is the quality of dispassion or equanimity in reference to object. So we don't want to be living a life like with huge highs and huge lows. Oh, I love it, and oh, I hate it. We just want to go like, wow, all is good. Okay, nothing really shines with a lot of excitement, and nothing really pulls me down with depression. Okay, I just enjoy whatsoever life brings with this sense of this passion, equanimity in reference to objects of experience. So these are the experience that can be classified as, okay, that's all right, I take it, and I don't make much of a fuss about anything. But the experience that I like very much are the ones that leave strong footprint in our mind, and it's going to be for repetition. We want it again. We want it more and maybe more intense, So it becomes an addiction. So because I liked it so much. And those that I don't like so much are going to also disturb my mind, because every time I come, life brings a similar situation to that. Immediately, I'm going to start getting disturbed, mentally, emotionally disturbed, afraid that something similar to that previous experience, something that is well deposited in my memory system, I'm afraid of that. Therefore, I'm going to try to avoid it. My mind is going to be disturbed. So, but if I am cool about the experience, kind of indifferent, positively indifferent, and then those are impressions that are not really much, never become really compulsive. They never become really binding to our conscious mind. So how are we doing there? I don't see you guys. I don't know who is there. Let me see here. Yeah, there's the 5 of us.
What sort of device are you on, Arlindo? Are you on an iPad?
Huh? Say it again, please.
Are you watching on an iPad or something like that?
Oh no, I'm working on my laptop, but
oh,
my document, and then I shared that
Mm.
the other post, the chart, and then somehow I can't see you guys, but it's okay. Very strange. So does anybody have a question regarding the inner instruments and so on?
If the body falls away, you no longer have the instruments of perception, intellect, the mind, or even the fade away. So why is the world keep arising? Presumably consciousness is there, well, consciousness is there absolutely forever. But it seems like the world is forever arising as well. Is that, even after death, even after the body falls away? I don't hear James talking about this aspect very much.
Can you? I missed the beginning of your question. I'm sorry, Trudy. When you said the first words in your question.
Well, basically, if the body falls away and
Oh, if the body falls away, okay.
all the instruments of perception, and
Yeah.
including the ego,
Got
the
it.
mind, the intellect, maybe there might be some residual memories. People talk about their psychic records or something, but basically, it seems that the consciousness and the consciousness being an absolute is forever there. Well, the world, it also seems to be that expression. The world, what is that expression I just used? World without end. The world without end seems to arise in consciousness all the time as well.
Yeah.
But I don't hear this kind of much about this discussion with James. I don't know if you want to talk about this aspect.
But I don't understand your question. Yeah.
Well,
You talk, if the world falls away, so what is the condition of consciousness? Is that what you say?
Well, no, I understand the condition. The consciousness is the absolute, and being without attributes. But the world is arising within it all the time. It seems like the world without end is arising within it. So, but if the body of perception falls away, how can the world always arise? I mean, there's some, as I say, James never talks about this aspect. We're always talking about the body, the body being part of the elementary aspect of the world, the apparent reality. But if the body falls away with all those perceptive organs, where are we at? Because you're saying the consciousness is the absolute.
Yeah. So you just remain as consciousness. When we are in deep sleep, for example, are we not there? We are there. We know later on. We know that we had a good experience. Okay, we enjoyed the experience. We have a certain memory of a blissful kind of moment of during that sleep. So we cannot have a subtle memory or any kind of memory unless there was some experience that was captured. So consciousness does not go anywhere. The sleep state is a good indication of what happens when the entire universe goes out into its macrocosmic causal body. When everything goes out of existence, it is going to exist as potential, as seed. Okay? And there, all of that is there. We see the scope of consciousness alone. So as well as in deep sleep. So the main thing is to know that you are consciousness. And when you know that you are consciousness and you understand that this consciousness is limitless, it's the existence of everything. It is always being here. It will always be here, regardless of the manifestation or not of the universe. This consciousness being always ever present. It is one without a second, and it is the very definition by nature of limitlessness. So being limitlessness means that there is nothing really missing or lacking or affecting or make me feel limited in any way. Okay, so knowing this allows the individual jiva to live from that platform of self-knowledge, knowing that its true, essential, fundamental nature is consciousness, and consciousness remains after the breakdown of the physical body. When this physical body is not longer here, consciousness will keep shining through all the other subtle bodies, you understand, and in association with their physical body. Consciousness, it's just an understand that what your nature is, and then you're no longer concerned with your instrument of experience, your instrument of knowledge. You know that you're beyond the mind, you are that which shines into the mind. Once you know that, you relax and no longer you are craving to remain associated with the body mind. That is the key behind this question, this kind of questions. We are craving, we attached, we depend on this body mind because we have this ignorance that tells us that if I am no longer associated with a body mind, I will not exist. No, this is a total misconception. So you will exist not as a experience knowing entity. You exist as existence itself, as consciousness itself, shining and operating every subtle body, turning them into experiencing entities, experiencing instruments in the field of Ishvara. Okay? So this knowledge liberates the jiva from this, this attachment, this misidentification with the instrument of experience and knowledge. Now, what are you going to experience? You're going to experience something similar to the deep sleep. You're going to be just full, undifferentiated, fullness of no limitations, that nothing besides you alone, and we enjoy it. Every night we have great joy, and we know that we like to go into deep sleep. We never like something unless it gives us bliss and joy. We don't like something that gives us pain and suffering. We only like things that gives us joy. In that state in which there is three bodies, there is nothing. I mean, there is a causal body actually, but the causal body is not conscious. Okay, so in that state, we enjoy this nature of limitlessness, without the subtle body and the physical body. So what's the big deal about not having a subtle body and a physical body? Every time we wake up from the deep sleep, either we begin dreaming that very often it gives us some ups and downs, pleasurable and painful experience. So we begin dreaming, or when we wake up again, so the world rise, and then my problems are back, and then I have to work my karma. If I don't have if I don't have self knowledge, I may be challenged, and to go about my days. So with self-knowledge, life is much easier because you have shift your sense of identity. You know that all actions, all karma is being unfolded naturally by Ishvara through its jivas. It all belongs to the Ishvara and the jiva, and I remain as consciousness, just watching everything. And my jiva was purified by the means of self-knowledge, and he's going to know how to harmonize and conform its values, its mental, its mind, and so on, with the natural laws of Ishvara, and they live a happy life. So it's all there is to it. There is no need. One of the most important things about self-knowledge is that it removes this attachment to the mind and to the physical body. Understand? Because you understood, and then you live a life without this fear. This fear derived by this attachment and dependence on these bodies, the mind and the body-mind complex, which is the instrument for experience and knowledge. Okay, we have no problem to go to deep sleep again and again. The scriptures say that we are happily go. Yes, but I go because I know that I will come back again. Okay, but a lot of the time you wish you would stay in that state, for long. And a lot of people even kill themselves because life is filled with so much trouble and anxiety. Okay, they just say, no, I'm going to kill myself because I cannot. Some other people are going to take sleeping pill more and more and more because they want to forget it. So we have no problem to remain without the two bodies and the world experience through these two bodies, the body mind. You know? Don't know. Does that help you, Trudy?
Um, well, yeah, the traditional advaita teaching. It's but it doesn't really address the idea, like say, once the body's going, what's happening? I mean, maybe it's not necessary to discuss it.
Well, nobody really knows truly. There's no evidence of what happens about. I mean, the scriptures they give some hints, the celestial realms and the lower realms and so on after that. But that is in reference to the soul, the journey of the soul, the mind. The mind, as we have seen in previous class, the mind survives the death of the physical body. Okay? And then this mind is going to sit somewhere in some lockers, wait until it finds another instrument of action, of experience and action, so that it can carry on working its karma, learning something more, hopefully, growing in wisdom, growing in quality of mind and so on, joy. And then this mind is mind that in due time is going to find the scriptural knowledge on Vedanta and do its self-inquiry and be free from this attachment, dependence on experience as the only way to feel satisfied and peaceful and so on. So nobody knows. Nobody comes back to say, "Oh, I did this and I went this," and so we don't know if these people who go and travel, if they are tripping. My take is that they have this mental subjective experience, and then when they come back, in retrospect they remember those subject mental experience, and then they can say, "Oh, I experienced this and it was like that, there was light, I saw this other," but nobody really knows. Understand? So we know that the mind, the scriptures, they say that the mind survives and the mind comes back. This is all common sense. Okay, that we come back, and then from the vasana we left, we're gonna come back, and from there we're gonna carry on our work. So it's total common sense. But what's the good to know that the mind is beginningless and it's almost eternal? And since when we come back, we don't remember our previous identity, which is very good. That we don't remember. Even in a lifetime, it's so good that we forget a lot of things. There is a blessing in forgetting things. There is a blessing remembering things, having it live in our memory. There is a blessing forgetting. It's a burden to remember everything. So the same way, so we come into a new life. It's much better we forget everything and then we start again. Oh, but then I'm not going to be the same me. No, we are never going to see the same me until we understand that there is no point in coming back here to work my karma, because coming back to work my karma just means coming here to try to make meteor work in a way that it gives me my sense of peace, love, and limitlessness and completion established by this interaction with the field of objects of experience, which is impossible. And that's what this all serves the purpose to bring the mind to understand that only self-knowledge is going to establish this sense of limitlessness and fullness and completion, which is the very nature of the soul as consciousness. Okay? So once you got that, you don't have any more reason to come back. You don't have binding desires to bring you here. Okay? We are good to go. Okay, we live the play. What I cannot count with the soul, so to speak, you merge back or you melt back, howsoever you want to see it. You just know that I am consciousness, I am free, I am limitless, I am existence itself, and there is nothing lacking. There is no reason. I have no desires and fears that can bring me back to meet you again, to forget my true nature. Just imagine, not to come back, I have to become ignorant again. Get my nature and then going through all the chasing and running after and running to avoid and running to gain and going to all these emotions and so on. So why to come back? So you know who and what you are. That's the benefit of self-knowledge. Okay. Hello.
Yeah, okay. I don't have further comment. I don't know what more
Yeah.
can I say. I mean, I understand the principles of Advaita Vedanta, I believe. It
Okay.
just and I understand the total value of them. It's I guess a point of discussion for me to ruminate on some of these things that the jiva wants to ruminate on. But I also know that they're really just, it just comes back. You're just consciousness. And there's nothing needed further than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like, so if you're going to ask a question, you're going to ask us to ask a question, Arlindo, this is the kind of questions you get. Because
yeah. No, I just want to know if I have somehow covered your previous question. Okay.
other people have questions. I want to hear them.
You see, the jiva is here. Everyone is born out of this ignorance-based vasanas. This self-limiting, this self-insulting, self-limiting thoughts. No, I am this small, poor me, and I need this, I need that, and I'm attached to this, I'm attached to that. So we come back here to carry on, to try in this impossible mission to complete myself, by the means of karma, of doing things to gain something that's going to give me this sense of fullness and wholeness and completion. I do that. We're going to do it. Karma, 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 karma. We don't no longer do it. So the only way to end this doing is a mean to accomplish your fullness and completion is by understanding that you are consciousness, and as consciousness you are whole, full, and complete. That's the simple logic presented by the Upanishads, is that there is nothing. I go for lifetimes, on and on and on again, trying to accomplish yourself by the means of karma, doing things to gain or doing things to avoid. And then one day you're going to understand that there is nothing you can do. And why there is nothing you can do? Because I'm taking the body mind to be myself, and the body mind will never be accomplished. It will never be full, whole, and complete. The body mind is limited by all means. Okay?
Well, the body mind is all totally under the governance of Ishvara and those gunas.
Yeah.
Our discussion right now is under those gunas.
Yeah. Everything is under Ishvara and Maya. So we are this conscious, the free, limitless consciousness, and understanding that is the purpose of Vedanta, so that we no longer go about trying to accomplish that which is already accomplished, becoming that which we already are. Okay, trying to find limitlessness in the jiva, while I am already limitless. I'm full. I'm Purna. I'm Ananda. So it's just understanding that which is always ever present solves this problem of the jiva, so that he does not need to keep coming back day after day. When he gets up, what we do, we just about running to gain, running to avoid, and so on. That's the name of the game of every jiva. Okay? Does this make sense?
Yeah, understood.
And we need to understand what is this I that we refer to again and again so many hundreds of times during the day. You know, if we have other people, even as thoughts, I, mine, I. So we need to understand what is this I. This I does not do anything, does not feel anything. This I does not think anything. This I does not own anything. So this I in reality is free from everything, you know. And understanding that and remain firm in that understanding is what we call self-knowledge and freedom from that which always change. Okay, the changeless jiva and world experience with the jiva are going to carry on, but you remain free as consciousness because you consciousness do not change. It's very simple. So what's the causal body? It's undefinable. It's beginningless ignorance. It's beginningless ignorance. It means that the causal body is that aspect of our jiva existence that does not know anything. You know? It's all the ignorance contained in the state of deep sleep, for example. You know, is known as the causal body. It's not knowing. There's nothing to be known. You don't know what's knowledge. You don't know what's ignorance. It is free of forms and divisions. The causal body is so subtle. It's totally free of forms and divisions. It's formless. And it's the cause of the subtle body. It's the cause of the gross body. And it's the cause of avidya. Avidya is a phenomenon in reference to the human jivas. Avidya is ignorance of the self, truth nature, you know, self as limitless consciousness, as if consciousness, the self, would feel and become limited as the jiva, you know. This personal ignorance in reference to the jiva is called avidya. So the causal body is responsible for all of this. Okay? It's responsible for the subtle. That's why it's called the causal body. It causes the subtle. It's responsible for the physical body, and it's responsible for this avidya, this beginningless ignorance of one's true nature as the self. It is the seed body. It's also referred as the seed because the seed is a very nice analogy because some of the trees, they may be huge. There are some trees in India, in the Vedic tradition, that are said to be enormous, vast, so enormous. And the seeds are so small. Okay, so this very tiny seed has the potential for this huge tree. You know? So it's the seed body. The causal body is this small seed that brings about the physical, the subtle, the mind, and the physical body. And this causal body is not logical. It's not logically definable. It's indefinable. So it's not logically definable. It's not logically understood. Okay? And it's said to be beginningless. It's said to be beginningless ignorance. Okay? It's free of forms. It is the undifferentiated beginningless ignorance, this beginningless ignorance which endlessly projects the manifest physical universe. What is the beginningless ignorance? The beginningless ignorance is the duality, the notion, the belief, you know, that duality is reality. And I need to complete myself by the means of gaining, avoiding what I like and what I dislike. So this is the universal ignorance. Okay, it's the beginning, universal, beginningless ignorance. This ignorance is what projects the universe. So how this universe is projected? By the power of Maya, by the power of Ishvara, is maintained. So this universe is maintained, projected, maintained by vasanas, the universal macrocosm vasanas of the universe. And these vasanas are all provided by the jivas. The jivas are the vasanas machines. We produce vasanas, and then Ishwara, Maya, they project the universe. They design, custom-made the universe according to the vasanas, the universal, the collective vasanas of all jivas. So this universe is born out of this fundamental ignorance, and this fundamental ignorance says the nature of reality is duality. Okay, this is physical, tangible, material universe in which there is a fundamental duality between a subject principle called the jivas and the object, the sentient object called the jiva and the inert objects that are experienced by the jiva. So this fundamental duality is believed to be reality, and this belief, this universal beginningless ignorance is what keeps projecting the universe into existence. Right? So that's the idea. Not only it projects and it has all the jivas running for things in order to resolve this sense of incompletion. It's the cause of the subtle body. It's also the cause, this beginningless ignorance, the cause of the subtle body, the cause of the subtle body, the cause of the grosser body, and the perpetuation of the fundamental ignorance of one's true nature, which is called avidya. It is the cause of the universe, as I was just mentioning. Okay? So why don't we know that we are this limitless self? Because of self-ignorance. Where does this ignorance come from? From the causal body, which is also the cause of the subtle body and the gross body. I'm repeating myself. Now, the existence of the gross body and the subtle body is obvious because we experience them. So we experience our mind, the content of our minds, our thoughts, emotions, our decisions, our concepts. We experience all of that. We can see and experience and know all of these things. But the causal body, the causal body cannot really be experienced because the experience instrument we have to experience things is the subtle intellect. Okay, is the subtle body. Subtle body can experience even its contents, its functions, its contents, but it cannot experience its cause. The causal body is the cause of the subtle body. Okay, it cannot be experienced. So how do we know that there is such a thing as the causal body? The existence of the gross body is obvious. But how we know the existence of the causal body? Through inference. We know the causal body by tracing its effect back to its source, its cause. Okay? So we know the effects, and then we infer and we trace its cause. So we know that there is such a thing as Maya. We know there is such a thing as the causal body by the means of understanding the subtle body and the physical body. Okay? So we have a lot of logic to go through here. The causal body talk is a very long talk. It's very, very subtle. And we are running out of time. And I will ask you guys if you want to ask any questions. Otherwise, we meet again next week. Okay?
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you, Arlinda.
We
Thank
meet,
you, Arlindo.
we meet again next week. And
Please see-
I'll be home and then I will be better organized with a better connection as well. Please what? Truth?
Please say hello to James for me. Tell him I'll be at Trout Lake this summer again.
Oh, nice.
I
Good.
don't know if he remembers, but I plan to be there.
I will let him know. Okay?
Okay. Thank you kindly.
Everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night. Bye now.